The show starts in 3, 2, 1, go.
Good morning, CaneSport. It's May 8th, 2025. I'm Gary Ferman, the publisher of CaneSport.com, joined today by our managing editor, Matt Shodell, as we discuss the news of the day. And I'm just going to tell you the story about this story. We sent Matt to the lab like we like to do. He's annoying as hell. So if we send him to the lab, he's in there for a minimum of 4 or 5 hours watching tape, building his knowledge of the subject of the day. And so he comes out of the lab yesterday and he says, I just did a great story. I said, oh yeah, Matt, and let's be honest. I mean, yes, he's annoying as hell, but he does do some great stories from time to time. And he says, I just wrote a story about how the biggest key to the upcoming football season is that the Miami Hurricanes playoff hopes do not hinge on Carson Beck and what the offense will do. He says it's all on the defense. And I'm okay with that. I mean, especially, now that we've fortified the defensive backfield. I really like this pickup of Keontae Scott. I thought he was a really good player a couple years ago at Auburn, and I know he tailed off a little bit last year and didn't have as good a year, and probably why he's out on the market. But I think he is just what Miami was missing as it came out of spring practice. A guy that's played a lot of college football in the secondary that can stabilize things a little bit better and has shown in really good ability when he's good. And I'm talking about better than Mish Powell. We were somewhat excited about Mish Powell when Miami got him in the portal. We didn't realize that he wasn't really fast at the time. I think this kid's got some speed, and he shows it as a punt returner and should be able to really allow the Miami defense to take a step up, Matt. So I'll buy into your argument right now a little bit, but I will say this. If Carson Beck is not the Carson Beck that Miami's spending $4 million for, is not the 2023 version of Carson Beck, I think it's going to spell not real good things for this football season. I think Miami needs Carson Beck to be what they felt like they were buying in the portal earlier this year. And I don't have any predictions on whether he will be because we haven't seen him throw full speed yet. But so I'm only like half in on your argument, but I'll give you the floor and let you explain yourself.
Yeah, well, the whole point is Carson Beck, we already know, is going to be good. He doesn't have to be great because he can be a game manager very easily in this offense. Miami has a great offensive line, great running backs that are proven, right? So Miami will score enough points. They're not going to be the number one offense in the country, I don't think. Okay, people can disagree with me. Everyone already says I'm so annoying and so negative, whatever. I don't care anymore.
Very accurately so.
Yeah, so to me, the question mark is the defense. How big a jump up can the defense take? And will it be a big enough jump up from last year when the defense was awful to make this a playoff team based on the offense taking a step backward? Because the offense is not going to get better. You can't get better than number one, right? I'm the number one sports reporter covering Miami. I can't go any higher. I can only get worse. Same thing for the Miami Hurricanes offense, right? They're already number one. They can't get better. They can only get worse or stay the same. So I think that given all the personnel losses, and the fact that Miami really has attacked more so on the defensive side than on the offensive side in the portal, recognizing, which it tells you everything you need to know, right? The positions Miami attacks in the portal, it tells you coaches think those positions suck or don't have enough depth or whatever it may be. You got to add a lot of guys, or you got to add, 6 defensive backs. It probably means the defensive backs aren't very good that they have on the roster, right? They're spending all that money on guys who you think would be proven, even though the ones they've taken have mostly either done well for one season or had a bad year last year and were good before that. They're all sort of question mark guys. There's nobody they've taken on defense that, to me, is a clear-cut free agent. To me, the best guy I've seen that they've taken is Xavier Lucas, and he was a backup last year at Wisconsin, right? can Keontre Scott be amazing? Sure. Can they all be amazing? Sure. Can Bonner be amazing? Yes. He started 1 year at NC State after a guy got hurt. He started some games. Can he be amazing? Of course. But will he be amazing? I don't know. Keontre had a bad year last year playing boundary corner. He was great at nickel before that under Zach Etheridge. You think that he'll be great now, but I don't know. Why was he so bad last year? Was it because he was at boundary corner? He doesn't know how to cover guys there, but he can cover guys at nickel. The skill set you need at nickel should translate easier to boundary than vice versa. So I don't get that. And then they pick up David Blay, who didn't really impress me in the spring. Undersized defensive tackle. They love to take those guys. And, so that's why I'm saying the defense is the key. Because I don't know. I'm pretty sure the offense will be good. I don't think it'll be great. But if the defense isn't really good, this team's going to have a big problem. And so that's why the key to the entire season, to me, every hope you have for this team hinges on the revamped defense and not the offense. It's not a diss of Carson Beck. It's more so that I know Carson Beck will be okay. Whether he's great or not doesn't matter. He's not going to be bad. There's no way he's going to be bad. We've already seen him play for 2 years, and he's good. He's a good quarterback. He's an NFL-level quarterback. He's not going to all of a sudden disappear into the swamp, and not University of Florida swamp, the swamp that has gators, that the actual swamp that has alligators and turtles and whatever else. He's not going to disappear into that and be terrible. And you can basically make your offense a run-first offense that draws defenses up. And then you can make your plays that way. I know Jojo Trader is going to be good enough. I know the receivers are going to be okay at worst. I don't know they're going to be great, but they'll be okay. And I know Elijah Lofton's going to be great. Like, that's just my personal feeling. So again, I'm not going to rehash any of this. It's all in the defense.
All right. Well, since spring practice, I don't know whether you're happy about this or it's to your dismay, but Miami went in the portal. In addition to Scott, they picked up a linebacker, Kamal Bonner, and they picked up a safety, Jacoby Thomas. And so it's a little bit different, a little bit deeper maybe than it was in spring practice. But, Ed Orgeron, I'm assuming everybody knows who Ed Orgeron is. He comes out to practice pretty regularly. And towards the end of spring, I said, so Coach, what do you think of the team? He was like, I can't imitate his voice, but you got to get number 11 back out there. Is Beck even number 11 now, or didn't he switch his number? No, he's 11. Yeah, so you got to get number 11 back out there. You got to get number 11 back out there, and he understands. And I've had several conversations with him about this. That in college football, everything starts and ends with the quarterback. Having a good high-level quarterback gives a good football team the chance to become a very good football team. And I'm excited about some of the stuff going on defense. I love the new DC. I love the new coaches. I think the defense is going to be markedly improved from what we saw last year. I agree with you that it's probably not reality for the offense to be the number one offense in the country again. But this season, in my opinion, is going to ride on Carson Beck and how good he ends up being. And I think that the coaches feel the same way, or else Miami wouldn't have gone out and spent $4 million on a quarterback. You don't spend that kind of money and devote that type of resources to a position if you don't expect that guy to make the difference in your season the next year. And, as it turns out, they got Cam Ward at a bargain basement price a year ago, but it paid huge dividends. Without Cam Ward last year, probably would have been a 7-win football team, right? I mean, you agree with that, Matt? So, the quarterback again was the difference, and between a 7-win team and a team that really should have been in the college football playoff. And so I do think that it's all going to be dictated by how Carson Beck performs this year. Don't really have an opinion on what that's going to be. Like I said, we haven't seen him competing out on Green Tree in a full speed situation. But I don't think it's reality that even with these portal pickups, some of which you may call free agents, some of which you might think are just roster fillers. And I know that in your podcast yesterday with Stephen Wagner, you talked about, I think Miami's got 18 transfers now was the number.
Yeah.
And we're projecting 10 of them to be starters.
Maybe even more than that, but yeah, at least 10.
Yeah, I mean that's a lot. You're not wrong. And I don't know how you feel about these guys on defense, but I think it's all gonna be determined by how well Carson Beck can play in September.
Yeah, nine. One's a kicker, so there's 9 defensive portal takes, but most of the defensive portal takes, it looks like they plan to start those guys. And you mentioned Scott. If Damari Brown is hurt to the point that he's never going to be good again, then I get it. But otherwise, I really want to see these guys compete to start. Again, Scott wasn't good last year. Damari Brown showed 2 years ago he's great. He was great in high school. Every school wanted him in the country. And then he gets hurt, and now all of a sudden, we don't know, so let's bring in somebody else. I don't know if he has a career-ending type injury, but he's had a lot of time to recover from it, right? And I think he was back the last few practices of the spring. But I just feel like Mario.
You can't count on him, though, Matt. You can't.
Well, that's the thing, right? So Mario Cristobal doesn't want to count on anybody. He wants 2 of everything. When he goes to Carbone for dinner, he orders 2 steaks, 2 sides of fries, 2 of everything, just in case one's a little undercooked. Hey, you got a backup. Why not, right? That's basically what he's doing. He's getting 2 of everything just in case, because he's a little he's ultra hyper aware of injuries and how injuries can destroy a season. And I'm sure it's happened to him in the past. And he realizes that in the portal, this is now something he can avoid, right? If somebody gets hurt now, he's literally got it's like what Cuba needs for his power grid, right? One power cell goes out, you got another one, a brand new one, just pop that one in. It's just as good as the previous one. That's what he's doing. Now, to me, I'd rather stockpile money. That's just because I'm I'm a conservative economic person. Stockpile the money, because I don't want to spend $1.5 million on, 8 portal guys that are going to just be the same as the guys I already got, just in case someone gets hurt, and you'll start the portal guys and the other guys there, whatever. I don't care who starts, okay? If they're the same, they're not that different. I'm stockpiling $1.5 million for next year, or the $2-3 million for next year. And I just want top level free agents. Like, I get Mario's the way he's doing it, because you want competition and you want redundancy in case someone gets hurt. But if the competition is all between this level and this level, I want these guys. I want those guys. He did not, out of those 18 guys, get a lot of free agents. He got Carson Beck as a free agent to me, and after that, there's a drop down, and then you got guys like James Brockermeyer and Xavier Lucas, and I'm missing one guy. I had like four, maybe 5.
Marion should be pretty good.
Well, Marion, but you can't. Can you call him a free agent when he's never had more than 450 yards receiving in 4 years of college? Like, he's a free agent if you want a returner. If you want a punt returner, yeah, then he's a free agent. But to me, like, I'm not taking a returner as a free agent and paying him that kind of money. He has to produce as a receiver, and he's not a clear free agent receiver right now as we sit here. So, it's an interesting way Mario's doing it. I don't know that you end in the playoffs with it. And if he doesn't end in the playoffs with it, we're going to be sitting here again a year from now bemoaning, why didn't he get young guys reps? Why didn't Justin Scott play 300 reps last year instead of 80 reps? Why didn't Armando Blunt get a lot of action last year so he can be, an amazing player this year and move, Akeem Messer and Ruben Bain inside a little bit more, or whatever it is. Those experience reps are so important. The coaches will tell you all day long. I don't know if fans out there think that, it doesn't matter if you play or not. Just stay in the weight room as a freshman, you'll play the next year. Game reps, there is nothing that replaces them in major college football. Being on that field, seeing how strong these opponents are, getting that experience of, oh my gosh, this is not high school anymore. These guys are really good, and seeing different types of players every single game that you're going against and what they try to do to you, right? How other teams try to attack you. These guys have never seen it. Justin Scott has never seen it in college. Armando Blunt has never seen it in college. Bobby Pruitt has barely seen it. Raul Aguirre has barely seen it. These are all guys who you would think should be the next guy up, but they were never prepared because these reps were taken by one-and-done mercenaries in the portal, and now Mario's done it again. And if they make the playoffs, I'm all for it. If they don't make the playoffs this year, they've just set themselves back another year because these young guys who need to get these reps will not have gotten them again. So it's playoffs or bust. If this team does not make the playoffs, then I'm going to be irate at what Mario did in the portal. I'm telling you, I mean, that's the truth.
All right, a couple things here. Like, I'm going to try to remember. There were 2 or 3 things you said that I wanted to comment on. But the first thing I'll say is I had this conversation with somebody on the message board this week, and we were talking about quarterback recruiting. And these guys were like saying on the board that you have to recruit the best quarterbacks in the country. Okay. You got to stop having to go to the portal and get your quarterback. And like, that's great in concept. I mean, no argument, except for one thing. Like, you're just assuming that if Miami targets the guy that they believe is the number 1 quarterback in the country, that they're absolutely going to get that guy. Like, it's hard to win on these. Number one, it's hard to evaluate them to what they're going to be. I mean, and I'm going to use Texas as an example because it's a great example. The Ewers kid who just got drafted in the 7th round by the Miami Dolphins. Okay, only good enough to be a 7th round draft pick. Okay, started for 2 years over Arch Manning. Okay, who was supposed to be the greatest quarterback in the world. Now, if Arch Manning is the greatest quarterback in the world, how is he not better than? And how did he not start over Ewers, who was only good enough to get drafted in the 7th round? Is Texas doing a crappy job evaluating their quarterback recruits? Is this so-called Arch Manning, number 1 quarterback recruit in the country, fraudulent? I mean, it's not so easy. And, they've recruited a few good players at quarterback. I mean, obviously, I love Luke Nickel. I think Emory Williams is a good, serviceable college football quarterback, maybe a backup at the level that Miami hopes to be. We're not going to sit here and say he's Cam Ward. We're not going to even say he's Carson Beck. I mean, he's not. Okay. But he has a place on this football team. I am glad he stayed and did not go in the portal. Judd Anderson, you watch him out at practice. I mean, looks like he should be a $1 million quarterback. I mean, he's got height and size. He's got a decent arm. It hasn't all come together here yet. Okay. So there's a lot of different elements that go into all of this when Shannon Dawson is out there recruiting and picking his quarterbacks. And it's not as easy as people think to get the best guy in the country or who you think is going to be the best guy in the country that won't even end up being the best guy in the country. It's not as easy as people think. And now you can carry that over to every position on the team, where, Matt Shodell expects all these guys to be good enough early in their careers or even in the middle of their careers to be better football players than those 18 guys that they're able to find in the transfer portal. And I'm telling you, in the modern day world of college football, that's not going to be the case a lot, okay? Because you're going in the portal, and theoretically, if you don't want to be chewed out by Matt Shodell, you're getting guys that have played college football. You're getting guys that at least have somewhat of a resume, like the Marion kid, for example. He might only have put up 450 yards in his best season to this point, but at least he's put up 450 yards. Nye Carr hasn't put up 450 yards. Dylan Upshaw looks like a great true freshman. He hasn't put up 450 yards in college football season. Neither has Malachi Toney. Neither has Josh Moore. Show me the receiver that is on the Miami roster that's put up 450 yards in a season.
What's that got to do with it? I mean, you want free
agents.
It
doesn't exist. So therefore, you got to go in the portal and get yourself some guys that have done it so that you have options.
They didn't get those. Nobody they got had 450 yards last year. Your theory, just to be clear, so your theory is guys aren't ready to play in year 1 or 2. Maybe they'll be ready in year 3.
These guys might be ready to play in year 1, Matt. I mean, these freshmen.
Oh, you literally just said a minute ago.
No. What I said, I'm explaining why you might go into the portal, and you might get Keelan Marion and you might get Tony Johnson. There's a reason why they did that. They're older guys. They've played college football. They can't just roll with a receiver core that's built around 3 freshmen, no matter how good these guys look on Green Tree. Okay,
Well, this isn't this is not the first merry-go-round they did this. Isaiah Horton leaves Miami, and you could say it's about money or whatever, but the fact is they squandered his 1 year. He could have been great, and maybe he would have stayed. They did him a disservice, period, and he knows it, and that's probably part of the reason he wanted to leave. And you mentioned the modern world of college football. Like this is the new thing to do, is bring in portal guys every year. The issue with that theory is the guys you're recruiting, which is Mario's strength. The guys you're recruiting, if they see that all the guys in the class ahead of them are sitting for 2-3 years before they get a chance to play, because they keep bringing in portal guys ahead of them because they're not experienced enough, like you say, they haven't had 450 yards receiving before because they never got the chance to, they're not going to sign with Miami. They're not going to stay at Miami. And now you have a recurring vicious cycle of constantly having to churn portal guys like FSU's doing. And you can hit sometimes, and then sometimes it's a disaster. And that totally negates what Mario Cristobal does best, which is recruiting. He is not a great portal guy because there's no recruiting involved. You're just paying money. And anyone can do that. Mario's skill set is to bond with recruits, bond with their families, convince them why Miami is the place to be. And the portal negates all that. That's the biggest problem we've had. And I said it since day one when this portal became a thing. I said this is the worst thing that ever happened to Mario Cristobal. And I stand by that. If every team had to rely on its recruiting and development, Miami would have been in the playoffs last year. They'd be in the playoffs this year. They'd be in the playoffs next year. They'd be competing for national titles. The portal's the worst thing ever happened to Mario.
So I don't obviously totally agree with you on what you said. Let's take the 3 freshman receivers. These are all going to be like potential, like Josh Moore has the potential to evolve into an Andre Johnson type of player. Yeah. Malachi Toney has a chance to be Santana Moss.
No, those 3 receivers are sick. Upshaw, those 3 receivers are as good as I've seen for freshmen. They're sick.
100%. And Upshaw is a sleeper of the group. He just makes play after play after play.
Which makes my point, by the way, because
wait a minute.
Wait
a minute. You can make your point in a minute. I just want to point out something. That doesn't mean, as great as these kids are, that they're going to be ready on August 31st to go beat Notre Dame. That they're going to be ready a couple weeks later to beat Florida. They have great potential, but they're freshmen. They've never been in a college football game.
I'm not disputing that. I'm saying bring in free agents. I'm not sure they did. My point is the portal. Normally, you have those 3 guys. They're here for 3 to 5 years. Now they might be here for 1 year, maybe 2 years. If Miami keeps bringing in transfer portal guys. That's why I'm saying the portal.
You, Matt Shodell, would criticize the Keelan Marion pickup and the Tony Johnson pickup on face value because you would say they're not free agents. They have no business picking them up.
I criticize. You know why I criticize them, especially Tony Johnson, because Miami clearly wanted different guys and didn't get them. Right? They chased 5 free agent slot guys and didn't get a single one of them because Mario doesn't want to overpay. So they took Tony Johnson. Now you can sit here and say he's a free agent, he's amazing, whatever. Maybe he will
say that.
You could say, oh, well, then what are you trying to ask?
I said he's an older guy that has played college football.
Oh, yeah. All I'm saying is I want free agents, period. I don't need the depth guys. Let the young guys play. You got 105 on your limit right now.
You're not going out and beating Notre Dame on August 31st with 3 freshman receivers.
That's exactly the problem, right? Yeah. The U.S. government is exactly the same way. Because of politics, they play for this year, right? Everything's about right now, this year for the most part. What can we do to get reelected right now, right? This is the only advantage a dictator has. They can look 20 years down the road and say, what's best for my people if they're good dictators? I don't know if there are any good dictators. And if Mario was a good dictator, he'd be looking at, okay, I'm going to be here for a long time. What's the best path for me not to win this year, but to win 3-4 years from now and then keep winning? And if he did that, he would say the best path forward is to recruit, develop, and only take free agents. But the portal has sort of enticed him, It's like a concubine. It says, please, Mario, take me, I'm here for you. And Mario takes them, even though they're not free agents. That's not my fault. He's done it for 3 years, and I've called him out every year for it, and I've been right every year. And I did say before last year that he finally got a great portal haul, and he got mostly free agents, okay? But you've got to keep doing that. And this year, this is not last year's free agents in the portal. This is just a bunch more guys, but much lower percentage of free agents. And I don't love that. The formula should be for a dictator like Mario, and by dictator I mean a guy who's here forever, hypothetically, right? Like your Bobby Bowden, hopefully. The formula should be free agents, recruiting and developing. That's it. I don't need the mid-level guys. If you miss on the Peñas, if you miss on all those slot guys they took in the first portal window, I'm going with Malachi Tony and developing him, And if they had been doing that from the start, from when he first got here, I have a feeling a lot more younger guys, they would have got a chance to see their kind of development, because you don't really see the development in practice when they're on the scout team, or in practice when they're with the third team. You can see development when you don't take the portal guys who have pushed them to third team, when you don't see the portal guys who have pushed them onto the scout team, and you get them some game reps. That's how those first 2 years, and even last year, you could have seen young guys where you're not making the playoffs anyway. You could see these young guys and what they have and what they don't have, and then make your decisions a little bit better on free agents, who you really need in the portal. Is this guy good enough in year 2? Is Justin Scott going to, be amazing in year 2 because he's great in year 1 and got better as the year went on? These are things they never saw. And that's just an example. There's a bunch of other young guys who they just never saw because of the portal guys that were ahead of them. And if you make the playoffs, I'm all for it. If you don't make the playoffs, you just cost yourself and set yourself back. That's just a fact, because you don't see your young roster.
All right. Let's move on. I think a huge priority at the U these days is making Matt Shodell happy. I think it's a major criteria for every staff meeting that gets held inside the building, making Matt Shodell happy. So that involves playing a lot of freshmen this year. And so I said, all right, Matt, you think, okay, Mr. Big Shot, and send him back to the lab again, because he's annoying as heck. And he came out with basically a ranking of the top 11 true freshmen who can make the difference for the Miami Hurricanes in 2025, and keep all of these transfer portal guys that aren't free agents in his mind on the bench. And so just going to go down the list real quick. Luke Nickel, who I personally hope gets to observe this year and just redshirt. I wouldn't want to see him out there having to, try to go beat SMU on the road, for example, or, anything along those lines. I think it would be. I
mean, what if he's needed? He shouldn't play if Carson Beck's healthy. But what if he's needed? Do you bring in Emory Williams, or do you give Luke Nickel a chance? That's
I go with Emory Williams. Emory Williams is prepared for 2 years to play quarterback in college football games.
There's plenty of freshmen that play well at quarterback. These are the 11 guys who are the most talented, in my opinion, that they have in the class. So I'd like to see all of them play. We know what Emory can do. So honestly, I'm happy to see Luke Nickel play 4 games in Moppo.
Oh, 100%. Yeah,
get him in 4 games and see what he can do. Like these 11 guys all need to get reps one way or another, period.
Okay, then
we got a lot of reps, like 100+ reps, period.
Luca Gilbert, I really like a lot. He's a big, tall, tight end.
He's skinny, but he's very tall. He needs to put on some weight.
He'll put on some weight.
He's going to be a really good player.
He's going to be really good. He's got a great radius, and is going to be a big-time player at Miami. So I endorse him being on this list. S.J. Alafatuli, I hope I pronounced that correct. He's the center of the future, and a really good-looking center prospect. He's just a little light right now, and another one that you wouldn't want to see play this year, no matter how happy it would make Matt Shodell. But he's got a really bright future. Brock Schott, as more of like an H-back tight end, I think has a good future. If Shannon Dawson can figure out ways down the road, I don't expect it to be this year, but figure out ways down the road to utilize his skills. Amari Wallace, to me, was one of the surprises of spring practice. A true freshman who barely played as a high school senior, who was out there on Green Tree looking really good on some days and doing a really nice job. I don't know that they're going to be able to put him on the field this year. I'm sure they would prefer not to. I think you've seen how heavy they've gone with safeties in the portal and have tried to fortify that position without playing a true freshman. But he has enormous potential. Gerard Pringle's a really quick running back. Again, I don't think they would like to play him this year. I think that going out and getting Charmar Brown in the portal to be the number 3 running back was a pretty loud statement that you don't want to have to use Gerard Pringle this year. We might see a little bit of Wheatley Humphrey, but I would be shocked if we see Gerard Pringle this year, no matter how mad it's going to make Matt Shodell. We talked about Dylan Upshaw. He will play this year. Josh Moore will play this year. Donta Simpson is an interesting one, and so is Hayden Lowe. These are two freshman defensive linemen. And normally you'd be saying you don't want your defensive linemen to have to play as true freshmen. These guys might be good enough by August to get into games this year on a regular basis. Simpson is a young defensive tackle, but he did some nice things against some pretty good offensive linemen in spring practice. So he certainly has a shot. And Hayden Lowe is a true freshman, but he already looks like a man out there, and I could definitely see him in the rotation with Bain and Mesdor at defensive end, and Armando Blunt, of course. I could see him absolutely getting a chance to play college football in his true freshman year. But the number one on Matt's list is the freshman that I agree figures to have the best impact this year, and that's Malachi Toney. Kid is skipping his senior year of high school, and coming to play college football, and he doesn't look lost out there. He doesn't look like he doesn't belong. This is a really good football player and a guy that I think Miami will use and lean on very early and very often in this upcoming season. So we've got that story on the website for you guys to check out. And, Matt, I'll let you summarize it. This looks like it's a very good freshman class. The third straight pretty good recruiting class for Mario Cristobal. And, you make the point that you want to start seeing more of these guys that get recruited traditionally on the field. And it should be something that's coming here into the future, because these recruiting classes are pretty decent. There's not a lot of guys that you can look at in these recruiting classes that you'd say, I don't want him on my football team.
Look, they had, I think it was 10 starters last year that were portal guys. This year they'll have 10 to 12. At some point, you've got to get to where it's just 2 or 3, because that means these guys that we're talking about are succeeding, are being developed, and are able to be really good players. You can only do so much in the portal. The homegrown talent, once you have a guy on your roster that knows your system, that likes your coaching staff, that likes his teammates, that likes where he is, it takes a lot more money for another program to drag him away from you, right? So you can keep that guy a lot easier. It's a lot harder to bring someone in who just wants a payday. And quite honestly, I'm not even sure that you really always want those guys. It's hard sometimes to tell if they're going to be dedicated to the cause, true Miami Hurricanes, so to speak, versus a selfish player, which doesn't really work in the locker room very well. So I'm a big fan of recruiting and development because that's Mario's strength. And I hope 2026 is not going to see 18 transfer portal additions. At some point, you got to get into that 5 to 10 range, if not less. And we did an analysis a little while ago of the top 5 or 10 teams in the country, and only one of them, this is from this past season, only one of them averaged double-digit portal guys over the last 3 to 4 years, or whatever amount of time I did. I can't remember if it was 4 years or 3 years, but whatever it is, how they built that championship roster was not through the portal. Okay, out of those 10, I think it was 10 teams, only one of them averaged double digits over that span of time. So it's already been proven to some sort of mathematical relative certainty. I'm not a mathematician, okay, but maybe 1 deviation from the mean, 2 deviations from the mean, that you don't really want to thrive and live in the portal over a long period of time. And I'm hoping Mario figures that out at some point, and we can see these great recruiting classes and see the development, because that honestly has been the problem in the last 20 plus years. The development component hasn't been there. I talk with other reporters about it all the time. When in the past years before Mario, players would come in and get worse. How's that even possible? How do you get worse? I'm not going to go down the list of players who got worse or just didn't get better, but there was very few and far between that actually got better from year 1 to year 2, from year 2 to year 3, from year 3 to 4, like consistently got better. Very, very few. And that has to change at some point if you're going to be a consistent team that's going to be in the national title picture every single year, which is what Miami wants to do. And I think most fans would agree with me, and maybe even the mighty Gary Ferman would agree, that if you're constantly bringing in 20 players out of the portal and not every one of them is seniors, right? Maybe 12 of them are seniors. You're going to wind up with a bloated roster of transfer guys. They're just sitting there on your roster for a while. And these guys are retreads from other programs oftentimes, think they're going to be beaten out. You know, Bonner, for instance, was not going to start at NC State this year. That's why he left, right? So does that make him a free agent here, a starter here? I don't know. Apparently, NC State now has a better linebacker than we do if we start Bonner, right? By definition, because Bonner left because he wasn't going to start. The guy who was hurt last year ahead of him was starting ahead of him, hence why he left NC State. So stuff like that, just at different positions, right? Even Keontae Smith, he left. Keontae Scott. He left because he had a terrible year last year and was benched. Okay, so you know, all these guys. I know fans want to say everyone's going to be amazing and everyone Mario takes is amazing and this program, you know, is on the upswing, going to win every game. Da da da. Like that's why we're fans. But I always try to take the view of I'm not going to be a fan. I'm going to look at it for what it is, and that's why people hate me, along with my annoying voice and face.
All right, a couple other things on the website for you guys.
Keontae Scott. I don't know if that's Keontae Smith. I don't know what the hell I said. Keontae Scott. I'm trying to say his name correctly. It's been a long night, a long morning, whatever.
In fairness to you, and I love to give you crap, but when you take 18 transfers and put them on this football team, it's a challenge for guys like us to, you know, remember the names and the positions and how they fit and don't fit. And, you know, it's like you got a whole new team from what we even had in spring practice. So keeps it exciting, no doubt. All right, a couple other things on the website for you guys to check out today. Azubi Charles goes inside the lines with Miami Hurricanes offensive line commit Joel Irvin. I think you guys will like that feature. Make sure you watch it. We have a recruiting update on a kid by the name of Tyson Bacon, who's been very impressed by the personal touch that he's getting from Mario Cristobal and his staff. Make sure you check that out. We're not going to talk about baseball on this show because we got destroyed the other day when we did for 10 minutes. Okay. Fair. It was a little long. No argument. Once Matt
we have a story. They're projected as a 2 seed. So that's pretty good.
Yeah. They're projected as a 2 seed now.
Pretty good.
So they're hot. So, we're trying to give them their due. So we got a baseball story on the website for you guys today as well. But that's going to conclude it for today for Good Morning CaneSport. We thank you so much for starting out your day with us. The information has been on the bottom of the screen the entire show. If you are not yet a subscriber to CaneSport.com, please, 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 your subscriptions allow our entire team to do what we do every single day to try to make you a really knowledgeable fan and fulfill your entertainment of your team. So please, if you're not yet a subscriber to CaneSport, head on over to CaneSport.com and become a subscriber. For Matt Shodell, I'm Gary Ferman. Thank you once again, everybody, and we will see you next time.